Aloha, everyone. We are now live. This is I Need Living Conversations. This session, the 138th session, we are talking about the ecstatic skin of the earth, humans and dirt. Are we the same thing as dirt? Is dirt the same thing as we humans? What is this concept of us being the ecstatic skin of the earth? So we have Sacred Blue Heron Woman here who is going to tell us all about that. And I want to welcome everyone. Take a good sacred space, make a good sacred space wherever you are, and get ready for this channeling, this teaching, this sacred wisdom conversation. So welcome, everyone.
Yes, welcome. Welcome, welcome. And we are crafting every day a new form of governance based on the, for us, with us, by us, the people, this time, for sure, based on the ancient wisdom of the Incas. Did you know the Incas, for anyone else listening, I know you do, Helium, because we've talked too much about this. Did you know, for anyone else listening, that the Incas had 3,000 varieties of potatoes? And they were the last government who provided food, water, and shelter for all their citizens without money.
Without death
So,
and without slavery.
yeah. So on that, what was their drive? What was their push? Well, 3,000 varieties of potatoes, agriculture. How do we feed ourselves here? And that should be all of our questions. We're all eagerly waiting for factory food, and that's that's going to be the death of us all. So,
For sure.
so dirt. Dirt is a good word. It's short, it's strong, it's sexy, and it leaves a taste in the mouth. The word soil, which so many people like to use, can be sexless and ugly. It can make the mouth taste of the sour old nurses who complain, "Oh my God, Mr. B has soiled himself again in room 200." I was one of those sour old nurses. So it takes dirt to grow an oak from the acorn. It takes the rot and shit, that is the root meaning of dirt. Dritten means shit in Old Norse. It takes the hot and the wet to awaken the cool order of the mineral world. Turds, no less than rocks and roses, are repositories for the energy of the sun. Did you hear that? Your turds are a repository of energy for the sun, or from the sun. Dirt is where these three meet and meld to transform the surface of the world and the air that we breathe. So even into the early 19th century, when a country girl was going to be married in France, they fixed the amount of her dowry according to the weight of manure produced on her father's farm. And now we haul it off away, right?
Yeah.
And until quite recently, even in America, if you sold a farm, you always got credit for the amount of compost that you'd saved, because dirt is the stuff of husbandry. Wherever there is decay and repose, there begins to be dirt. So how can we stand on the dirt every day and not feel its power? How can we live our lives stepping on it and not wonder at it, or even how can we get grossed out by its sturdiness? Which so many of us do. Science says that an acre of dirt produces 1 horsepower of energy every day. So in the Bible, there's a story about a man named Moses who needed the sign of a burning bush as the thing to get his attention to send him on the way of Holy Mother. However, the story as I heard it growing up was he saw the bush in vivid technicolor flames, right? He didn't see that. He saw the bush as all bushes actually are, as all of us actually are. It's called the equation of burning, and this is the only author I've read so far that has addressed this equation of burning.
Okay. Equation of burning, that sounds...
The equation of burning.
That sounds technical.
The equation of burning describes how plants, animals, and humans unlock the stored sunlight and turn it into the heat energy that fuels their motion, their feeling, their thought, or whatever their living consists of. So my philosophy is this equation of burning is what causes us to have an aura.
That's what I was thinking.
It-
And when I think of the burning bush, I think of an aura.
So all that is living actually burns. We're all burning every day. That is a fundamental fact of nature, and Moses was given vivid imagery of it. That glimpse of the real world, and that is the real world, is the world as it is known to Golden Mother, Holy Mother, and it's a world of processes that are all in concert together. He was told to take off his shoes because the ground is holy ground. So he was being asked to experience in his own body what the burning bush experiences, a living connection between heaven and earth, the life that stretches out like taffy between our grandfather, son, and Pachamama. And we are all asked to do the same thing. So the truth is, we don't know the first thing about dirt. We don't even know where it comes from. Our own sun is too young and it's too cool to manufacture any element heavier than helium. Helium is number 2 on the periodic table, leaving some 90 elements on the Earth that were not even made in our solar system. So uranium and plutonium are the heaviest elements that can occur in dirt, and those two can only be forged in an exploding star, a supernova. And incidentally, there's going to be a supernova exploding this summer that will be able to be. Huh?
This summer, you said?
Late summer, early fall, something like that.
Okay. Are you going to tell us about that?
No, because I don't have any more information about that right now.
Okay.
As I get it, I'll give it to you. So we are all stardust. We are all made of stardust. So there are countless megatons of unknown dirt out there. There's unknown dirt out there, which are the ejecta, the dejecta, and the rejecta of ruined stars. And all this ejecta, dejecta, and rejecta floats around the universe until it enters a field of force. And these fields of force resemble spider webs, the home of Spider Woman, Golden Mother. Some are concentric, some are spiral, others are like labyrinths. And they are traces of the way that a force, whether it's magnetic, kinetic, or gravitational, acts. And they tend to catch passersby like a spider web does. Right? That's what a spider web does. So imagine the dirt from 1,000 different exploding stars that has gathered along these lines of force, magnetic force, in a spidery red nebula, which was Golden Mother, right? Spider Woman. A few light years away, another star explodes, and the force of this bang sends out a wave that perturbs and twists the magnetic lines of her nebula. Maybe it wasn't the force, maybe it was her singing. Maybe it was the singing of right? Creating eddies and whirlpools like those in a river. And in these eddies, the dust begins to gather. As it forms lumps and lumps, gravity becomes stronger than the electrical forces, and the process feeds on itself until spherical masses are formed. This is a story of love. Mother's, Golden Mother's desire, singing. Spit out the dust. So, if a very large mass accumulates, it may catch atomic fire and become another sun. Smaller masses may become planets of solid, liquid, or gas. Even smaller yet are the cold hunks of moons, asteroids, and comets. So apparently Golden Mother likes to sort more or less dense matters for different purposes on different scales. At the scale of the sun, atoms can't exist because their electrons are blown off, and so ions constantly radiate through the solar system. At the scale of Grandmother Moon, atoms are loose and almost inert because the solar wind constantly pummels Grandmother Moon and embed it embeds helium atoms in her lunar soil, her lunar dirt. So where does our helium come from? Grandfather, sun, and grandmother moon. So how can we expect Earth or Pachamama to come between sun and moon? Because the sun is all activity and grandmother moon is all passivity, and Pachamama is both active and passive. Well, in the process of her evolution, she has two primary products, dirt and atmosphere. Volcanoes disgorge oxygen, poor mineral material from deep inside her crust, rising into the stratosphere where they pick up oxygen atoms and then fall with them back to her surface. Meanwhile, the green plants, algae, where did they come from? They convert sunlight and carbon dioxide into food and oxygen. Animals, what are they? They take the oxygen and convert it back into carbon dioxide through eating it and eating the plants. So the result is this vast cell, Pachamama herself, hurtling through space with her envelope of atmosphere and dust that regulates the inflow of solar hydrogen and electronic energy and the outflow of energy made by combining these with the heavier elements of Earth. So as we, the beings that make up organic life, continue to exist, evolve, and cover Pachamama, we create a rich, stable atmosphere with rich, deep soils, or rich, deep dirt, sexy dirt. So only here on Earth does Stardust engage in this extraordinary array of self-organizing behaviors. Only here on Earth does it perform the ceremony of continually creating an atmosphere. So why is Pachamama's dirt so special? We don't know. We don't have a clue.
But you do.
No, we don't. Well, the sea was proto-dirt, where earth, water, and solar fire met for the first time. It was an inverse dirt with the liquid element providing the matrix, force field for the mineral salts and dissolved gases. So life is the story of bodies that learn to contain the sea. Do we contain a sea in us? We absolutely do. We and the plants and the microbes are all containers of a fluid that is very much like the sea, the ocean. Ours is red because we have an iron compound. We use an iron compound called heme to multiply our ability to extract oxygen from the air. The plant's is green because it uses a magnesium compound to extract carbon dioxide. So the bodies of all plants, trees, rocks, animals concentrate the salts of the earth, selecting those ions which are of use to their metabolism. And that's part of her crust, her ecstatic skin. So silicon and aluminum make up a huge fraction of our dirt, but they're present only in trace quantities in humans and plants because we can't use them. So all of our evolving process has moved us toward osmotic independence, which is the ability to walk around without drying out. We contain the sea and we walk around without drying out. Imagine that. So freedom of movement comes with freedom from the rhythms of the sea, while we're no longer ensconced in the sea. That's the freedom. But while in our bodies, our blood, lymph, and lung fluids are still controlled by the tidal forces. Our pumps, by their constant work, give us the range of freedom of movement that a lot of other organisms don't have. The fish don't have that. They can't move out of the sea. They dry out. Okay. So in the first dirt, in the first season of Pachamama, individuation began.
Okay. This is
And
very
strangely, huh?
This is very interesting.
Strangely enough, when you look for a creature to match the range of motion of the human hand, we have to find ourselves with the wiggling filaments of fungi and the gesture of acclamation of spreading mycelium. So Our hands are fungi, our fingers are fungi, our toes are fungi. That's why they're meant to move on their own.
Okay.
So humus, or human. The dictionaries say there's a connection between the words, but they don't elaborate. So what does the root word hum mean? It might have to do with the words humble and humiliate, and both those words come from the root meaning of the ground lowly. But humus does not refer to the ground itself. It refers to the end product of decaying litter and dead creatures. It also has to do with being humorous, which means wet. Both people and humus are wet inside. And
Humus.
wetness is opportunity.
I can think of human as well. Kind of.
Yeah. Wetness represents the openness of nature to what falls from heaven. So the processes of growth, decay, feeding, digestion, excretion, attack, and repulsion all need wetness to generate heat. So to understand these processes, we have to study the interconnections. And for more than a century, chemists have been trying to understand both humus and humans. What is humus? No one knows. Textbook will tell us that humus is a deeply altered black organic matter that lies on the top layer of dirt.
Mm-hmm.
So humus is imperfectly understood by those people who are experts, and they say it's very likely that no two humus molecules are or ever have been alike, like people.
Okay.
So what is a human then? Well, in 2014, the British Royal Society of Chemists calculated what it would take to assemble all the elements necessary to build this guy, an actor named Benedict Cumberbatch. So according to their calculations, 59 elements are needed to construct a human. The top 6 are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus, and they account to 99.1% of what makes us.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some molybdenum, vanadium, manganese, tin, and copper inside us also. But the biggest component in any human being that fills 61% of our available space is oxygen. So we are almost 2/3 composed of an odorless gas. So we're gassy. We're gassy like Neptune and Uranus. But the reason we're not light and bouncy is that our oxygen is mostly bound up with hydrogen, which makes 10% of us to make water. Therefore, we are the sea. And water is surprisingly heavy. If you've ever emptied a kiddie pool, you know how heavy it is. Or tried to carry a big bucket of water, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a little ironic that the two lightest things in nature, oxygen and hydrogen, when combined, form one of the heaviest things. Mm-hmm. So of these 59 elements found within us, 24 are traditionally known as essential elements because we can't do without them. The rest are a mixed bag. Some are beneficial, others are neither harmful nor beneficial. They're just along for the ride, and a few others are bad news, period. So cadmium, for instance, is the 23rd most common element found in the human body, and it is seriously toxic. But we have it within us because it gets into the plant. So in North America, we ingest about 80 micrograms of cadmium a day, a seriously toxic element. And no part of cadmium does us any good. Mm-hmm. So no matter how carefully the British Royal Society assembles the materials, they could not create Mr. Cumberbatch. Mm-hmm. Despite the fact that we are a collection of dirt with wetness inside, the only special thing about all the elements that make us is that they make us. Mm-hmm. Our skin is our largest organ and our most versatile. All told, our skin weighs 10 to 15 pounds. It's the thinnest on our eyelids and thickest on the heels of our feet and the palms of our hands, and it never fails us. It consists of an inner layer called the dermis and the outer layer called the epidermis. The outermost surface of the epidermis is called the stratum corneum, and it is made up of entirely dead cells. So all that makes us lovely is deceased.
Mhm.
That's quite the concept, isn't it?
Mhm.
Everything that we think makes us beautiful is dead. It's kind of a humbling fact. So where our bodies meet the air, we are all cadavers.
Mhm.
And
Interesting to know.
yeah, and these outer skin cells are replaced every month. So we're a cadaver for a month. Well, probably 3 weeks.
Mhm.
Right? So we shed skin copiously, carelessly, at the rate of some 25,000 flakes a minute. Over 1 million pieces every hour we are shedding.
Mhm.
So run a finger over a dusty spot in your house, and you are clearing a path through fragments of your former self.
Mhm.
Silently and remorselessly, we return to dust and to dirt.
Mhm.
Skin flakes are called squamae, meaning scales, and we all trail behind us about a pound of dust or dirt every year.
Wow.
That's kind of a humiliating fact, also. Humbling, not humiliating, humbling.
Humbling. Yeah.
So today we do not know what humus is, but we do know what it does. Some of it releases nitrogen and trace elements for the reuse of plants, and all of it nourishes the microbes, the microzyma, Holy Mother, which decompose it and whose bodies add to substance. The microbes secrete sticky substances that help bind humus and clay together into stable aggregates. It resists the process of microbial decay so that it remains in the soil for 10,000 years or more. Humus can remain in the soil for 10,000 years or more. This is a good thing because it can hold mineral nutrients for plants' use twice as well as the best clays can. Humus helps a really porous dirt to hold more water and heavy dirt to hold less water. A pound of sand absorbs a quarter pound of water. A pound of humus absorbs 2 pounds. So we want lots of humus on our ranches,
Mhm.
right? To hold water so she doesn't run away.
Mhm.
So radical disorder is the function of both humus and humans. For humus, similarity is rampant, but identity is non-existent. And it's the same for us, kind of. So neither humus nor humans are humble at all. We are audacious, like nature herself. We are wet, we are fecund, we are protean, and we are dangerous. And when we can start to comprehend this, we know we must become responsible to life. And that is why we are crafting a new form of governance, because we are responsible to life now.
Mhm.
Hospitality is the fundamental virtue of dirt. It makes room, it shares, it neutralizes poisons, and so it heals. The dirt teaches us if you want to be remembered, you have got to give yourself away. A temperate forest lives largely by giving itself away, recycling its own masses. And if we remove the litter in the forests, we break the chain, and the nutrient poor dirt below can't supply the deficit. So to clear cut a forest is to break the millennial rhythm of events. And the dirt that is now exposed to the rays of the sun quickly becomes hotter and digests the leftover organic matter, whose growth promoting nitrogen soon bleeds through the dirt and disappears. So if our globe is heating up, why is it heating up? Because we're cutting all our trees.
Mhm. That's
Right?
that's the biggest driver, I would say.
Yeah. Only by replacing what we take can we keep our dirt fertile. Nature must be our standard. So to be responsible to dirt is to respond to its gifts with our own. Dirt or soil is a body that is continually doing work. An acre of good dirt burns carbon at the rate of 1.6 pounds of soft coal per hour. It breathes at 25 times as much carbon dioxide in one day as does a man. Because dirt is porous and because water carries away its nutrients, dirt deteriorates. That's why we need humus. However, we can help it live long with the knowing that it is fragile. It does not have the same unchanging character as a mountain or a river, so we owe it our lives and energy, and the bodies that we give to it are not enough. It needs far more responsibility from us. Far more. A great deal of the world's wisdom is contained in manure. We just kind of shift it there. Manure isn't just shit. It is both the shit and the piss of an animal, often contained in soaked straw or other bedding. The solid feces are comparatively rich in phosphorus, but they contain only 1/3 of the manure's nitrogen and 1/5 of its potash, which is potassium. Okay. The greater proportion of these two important nutrients is contained in the urine. Okay. A whole web of organisms in the dirt eat the manure, cleaving the organic molecules into simpler ones, using some of the results to feed itself, pushing some back into the dirt where something else eats it. Yet less than 1/4 of the manure that our animals drop is usefully returned to Pachamama to be composted into dirt. Composting is a process that takes place most efficiently in contact with her and the wide open air. So a dump, a landfill are examples of a failed relationship to nature. Composting is an act of healing. It restores the right working of a natural process, and composting makes humus. While we live, we are inhabited by millions of microbes. Microzyma, as Anton Béchamp called them. This is Holy Mother, microbes. They shape us and they form us, and they shapeshift. A full 10% of our dry weight is not human at all. It is the microbes that feed on, in, and with us. Our bodies are the kitchens where food is cooked, digested, and then burned to cook with us, to cook us. So we live until death in a perpetual state of burning. Fever at 98.6 degrees, or what is that, 37
degrees.
37.5, I think it is in Celsius. I remember from the hospital. I took temperatures were all taken in centigrade. So at death, our corneas cloud over. And this indicates that decomposition is already underway. Rigor mortis, when the body stiffens up, is simply the sign that our oven has been turned off. Our equation of burning is no longer. Dead muscle contracts, and it is an effort for living muscle to relax. So in order to relax, we must burn. Each grave is like a city beneath the dirt. The soil of each grave is the transformer, and the grave is a memory from which the story of the earth is told. Yet not even the dirt of graves is safe anymore because of the practice of formaldehyde embalming. The dead body, messy as it becomes, is not toxic, but the formaldehyde is. It coagulates proteins in the corpse, and consequently the same with any creature that tries to consume it. So in our death, when we insist on embalming ourselves, we are also embalming any other creature that tries to consume us and turn us into dirt.
That's something to think about, right?
Yes, it is. Densely packed cemeteries are now so full of formaldehyde they pollute our groundwater. So ignoring dirt's own work, we destroy it and we harm ourselves. The Egyptians worshipped the dung beetle, the scarab, yet we ignore it. The dung beetle not only eats dung, it rolls it into balls and pushes it into its burrow. The superiority of buried dung to manure on the surface is in the nitrogen contained. When manure is just left on the surface, much of the nitrogen contained in it will volatilize and be lost in the air in a few days. So after a few days of manure laying on the open ground, it's not really useful anymore.
Okay.
If the manure is buried, the nitrogen gets fixed in the dirt and makes a more stable humus, improving the soil's moisture holding capabilities and aeration, which make a better environment for roots. So as a result, the plants for the herbivores grow thicker and faster, and the cows become well-fed and healthy. They defecate copiously, and the dung beetle is the linchpin of this cycle that keeps the whole landscape healthy. Wherever there is a shortage of dung beetles, there is an excess of flies, and I can guarantee you I have a shortage of dung beetles on my farm because I have an excess of flies.
Okay.
Flies are the only other thing that lays their eggs in dung. So around me, all the cattlemen have said, I tried putting chicken manure on my fields and it did nothing, so that's why I resort to buying fertilizer, because it works better. Yet these experts are not aware that just simply spreading the manure didn't do anything, because all the nitrogen evaporated into the air, right? So in our first investigation for our food self-governance dojo, we talked about how to slow water down and help build dirt from the bottom up with a subsoiler pulled behind a tractor, subsoiler that digs a furrow about 2 inches wide, and you can tell it how deep to go. I would venture to say that subsoiling right before rain and then spreading the manure, so you know rain is coming, you subsoil, you spread the manure, would get most of that manure buried and useful.
Okay.
While we do that, we can continue to cultivate the growth of the dung beetle numbers, and how we do that, I have no clue. How do we cultivate dung beetles? I don't know. So dirt is a web of relationships that transmits forces. It is the theater where water, earth, and air can interact, and Pachamama can express herself in the endless variety of life. The new age trend is hydroponic gardening. Thinking will replace in-ground food growing with hydroponics. Studies have shown that a single generation of plants thrive in the hydroponic environment, but they don't reproduce. Ho ho! There's the killer. They don't reproduce.
Ability. That's wow. People should know that.
Yes.
Hydroponics take away the ability to reproduce of a plant. I didn't know that.
Yep. I didn't know that either, but right. So evidently the full dirt system provides the true dynamic for true sustainability. In the days before synthetic fertilizers, the dynamic potential of humus was so important that there existed a complex formula for calculating its value when the property was sold. A person selling a farm would be paid not only for the land itself, but for the value of the pre-humic dressing he left on the land. So he would get credit for the blown down wood in his forest, and for his hedgerows, and for his manures. And now we wanted it pristine. No manure anywhere. No blowdown, no nothing. Green lawn that I can ride around with, that I can show you my wealth with my riding lawnmower. Digging in dirt. Hands work by principles of neighborliness. The competition of one finger against another seldom yields useful results. Can you imagine if our fingers were in competition? This is the stupidity of microbiologists. The current microbiologists is they all argue that our microbes are in constant competition. Right? So they can't see it in constant strife. Are our fingers in constant competition? No, they're not. If you cut off all your fingers, shook them in a bag, and then replaced them in a different order, you'd no longer have a hand. Digging and acclimation, the hands delving and the hands uplifted, the hands taking and the hands discarding, the hands scraping and the hands scooping are the fundamental gestures of the human hand, and the hand is a symbol of the whole body. It's the only part of us that is made to both give and receive, to repel and grasp. So every tool, every machine made for digging is a transmutation of the capabilities of our hands. But the machine lacks neighborliness. And the real community is born of neighborliness. And now we know well enough that every finger of the hand has a use that is separate, and no other finger could do that function so well. And it is the same in community. The ensemble is primary, and through the neighborly relationship of the parts, the hands perform those functions of which prayer is the plainest manifestation: to dig down, to grasp, and to lift up and let go.
Mm-hmm.
The Mohawks would throw a fish into the hole with their seeds of corn, bean, and squash. An ancient Scottish farmer would plant a loaf of bread soaked in milk in the first furrow he plowed. These are symbolic acts expressing the fundamentally sexual nature of agriculture, far more directly than the arcane numerology of fertilizer. The digging sticks of the primitive tribes were often made explicitly in the shape of phalloi, penises. So think about that. It's true, right? In the evolution of angiosperms, seed-bearing plants, it has been shown that the better contact of the seed with the matrix of Pachamama, the more likely germination. So seeds found a way to be inserted into the earth like a phallus desires insertion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We can't get away from sex. It's there constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why we have to acknowledge the sexual nature of everything. Even more sexual than the digging acts themselves are the timing. So the basic tool of agriculture is not so much the plow as the calendar, and the calendar belongs to the women. It's hard from our time-ridden point to imagine the situation in ancient Sumer when two cities a few miles apart might find themselves in different months of the year because their calendar was not run by the woman. So in their efforts to control the calendar, the newly settled patriarchal cultures decided to try a 30-day cycle. Unfortunately, their 30-day cycle was mechanic, so it got out of sync with Grandmother Moon, so much so that they were planting and harvesting season. So the local priests would reset the schedule, but different cities adopted different solutions. So it might be possible to miss your appointments in the neighboring city by months. And that is what happens when men try to deal with women's business. So the dirt of Pachamama is all that is really ours. The seasons with their heat, cold, dry, and wet cycles make the dirt. The storms make the dirt. The tides make the dirt. And above all, the trees, plants, the dead digest it, the eaters, and the eaten make the dirt. Dirt is a gift to each of us. Yet we spend our lives hurrying away from the real of dirt, just like we now try to hurry water away as though dirt and water are deadly to us.
Mm-hmm.
No hole in the earth is a thing to be trifled with, as it leads to subterranean waters. In 1980, a Texaco rig drilling for oil beneath a lake in southern Louisiana accidentally penetrated the labyrinth tunnels of a salt mine, an ancient salt mine. Within 8 hours, the entire lake had drained into the mine, taking with it 11 barges, a tugboat, the drilling rig itself, and 70 acres of land.
Wow.
Talk about the greatest stealing in history. However, the next day when the tide rose in the Mexican Gulf, goddamn the Mexicans for letting the tide rise, right? When the tide rose in the Gulf, it spit out the 9 of the barges were spit out. So can you imagine? That's what makes me laugh. Can you imagine this picture? The tide is rising, 11 barges disappear, and the tide rises, and they're there again. Is that not a miracle?
This is in the lake?
Yeah, as the lake refilled, they pop back out. But the tugboat, the drilling rig, and 2 barges remain in the mine.
Wow.
And this just happened in 1980. How many of us know this? We don't.
What lake is it?
It was a lake in southern Louisiana. I don't know the name.
Nothing.
But this event was a caricature of the worldwide dirt process by which life is oriented and maintained.
Mm-hmm.
So there is hardly a spot on Pachamama that is not honeycombed with tunnels, some filled with water, some filled with air. In the top layers of dirt, at least 50% of the channels are filled with air. The rest are filled with water. And beneath these rest the saturation zones, where groundwater fills all the channels. And so this zone is known as our water table. So basically, we're all afloat. The difference between a desert, a fertile field, and a swamp is not the presence or absence of water in the subsoil, but its availability.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The water is still there. It's just how available is it? How deep do you have to go to get it?
Mm-hmm.
Dirt is a body in nature. To try to understand it by taking a few small shovelfuls and submitting it to chemical tests is like trying to understand our bodies by cutting off a finger, grinding it to a paste, and performing the tests. You might learn about the chemistry of your finger, but its functions, nothing. Like our bodies, the dirt participates in the recirculation and transformation of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Like our bodies, it is full of channels and pathways directing the elements into fertile combinations and transformations. And like our bodies, it has a definite genetic form. The body of dirt is where seeds, worms, and ions fly. And as the sky links outer space to Earth's surface by means of increasingly dense atmospheric layers, so the dirt links the surface to planetary bedrock by means of increasing dense layers called horizons. So where the bottom layer of the sky rubs up against the top horizon of the dirt, all our terrestrial life is found.
Mm-hmm.
The horizons of dirt express a single life rising out of a single environment. Dirt has an age, an expression of the life it has lived in its own peculiar place. The assembly of the horizons is the signature of the dirt, and the assembly is created by the dynamic interactions of the 5 elements. Pachamama tends to be passive in the reactions that make dirt, being transformed by what reaches it. Water is the most active matter of this, but fire is also. So dirt is a transformer, a body that organizes raw materials into tissues, and these are the tissues that become mother to all organic life.
So dirt and tissues, we're all the same.
We're all made of dirt.
I really like what you said today on the message, and I think it's relevant to this, that the life is never battling. Organisms are not competing. They are all working for the success of the whole.
Yeah. But science will tell you they are.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a common theme of science, is that all the microbes within us, all of Pachamama within us is competing. Well, how can Pachamama, or not Pachamama, but
Then,
Holy Mother, how can she compete against herself?
right,
It's not
and that wouldn't be science. That would be scientism.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there is a way to prove that is wrong.
I'm sure there is. Well, then, yeah, Lynn Margulis has, but like I said, and others have, but they don't like to use the words, that they don't like to buy into the theories, because they don't get to let go of their selection of the few.
Right.
I mean, right, they don't want to.
So this is the general narrative in most of the institutions and what we believe is a settled science, and we're constantly seeing information and scientists and other types of information that doesn't come from scientists that explains and exposes the reality of things, and but then it changes the whole conception of why things are, and because then that would change us in how we think, right? It would make us leave the competition, this world that you've been mentioning on the messages, where the few elite are the ones that rule. If we are to understand that that's not the way, that's not the most
That's not
advanced
the way
way
nature
either,
works. That's not the way evolution works. That's not the way the
right?
evolving of life works.
So that's not the way that's not the economic way to live. That's not the technologically advanced way to live. That's not
No, not at all.
the so so this is very crucial to have it understood, the the importance of the layer of dirt, and that we are, that's kind of like the vision I got from this conversation, is that we are the, humans, animals, plants, dirt, all of that. It's like one living um,
One living organism, absolutely.
organism, and I wanted to say one living layer of this greater being, which is Earth, and
Yeah,
and that is Holy Mother. That includes the sky, includes the cosmos, includes the
yeah,
deep layers of the Earth, the fun, this creation event that that created these elements that are not easily found, but that then are essential to life. It only makes sense in a living being, if we understand life as a
yeah,
living, conscious, self-supporting entity,
yeah.
rather than some clockwork machine,
Right.
right? So this is wonderful. And
So
where
for
does this take us
clarity,
to?
when
Mhm.
I refer to Pachamama and Holy Mother or Golden Mother, I'm referring to I'm Pachamama is Earth. It's our visible. Holy Mother, Golden Mother is our cosmic being, but they're one and the same. But yet one is invisible and one is visible.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's one and the same, right?
One
And
and the same, but yet different. I mean, that's why we're two-dimensional beings, because we're made of cosmic spirit and
mhm.
Pachamama.
So that yin yang, which is then
Yeah.
to the masculine and feminine polarities, and that's why everything is masculine or feminine. Um, so wow, this is starting. We're starting to have a clear understanding of, and if you folks have been following all the conversations, you will get a clear understanding of where we're trying to get and what we're doing, and then you might just then understand that we're actually doing something that there's a lot of apparent doing that is not really doing, a lot of that. And then there's doing, this is we're doing something, we're going somewhere. And of
Yeah.
course, with a big HUM, big humility, of course, you're not used to seeing that. You're only used to seeing somebody that's going somewhere as really successful and with a lot of um, budget for wear and for cameras, and that's
Yeah.
not what you're seeing here.
Yeah.
Um, so that so this is a great like ground settler. This settles the ground and says anything that is alive and it's going somewhere, and it's really profitable and it's really prosperous, has HUM in it. It's a humanity, humans,
Hamesh.
humility, and hummus.
Yeah.
This is a this was a wonderful session. Do you know what the next session we will go to?
Oh, we're gonna go the opposite direction and talk about the myth of banking. The five myths
Okay.
that, or the myths that banks don't want you to know. Because if we knew,
Wow.
they would end. Banks would end.
Wow. We gotta do that. Okay. And I want to know that. And that's going to be a very attractive title. The 5 myths that banks don't want you to know. That's going to
Just make it
hit
the myths.
somebody.
I don't think I have five, so just make it the myths that banks don't want you to
Okay.
know.
The myths that banks don't want you to know. Okay. So we have one constant live viewer today. Was here most of the show. Left a few minutes ago. So I guess it
Cool.
was that was a good thing. And then we're getting plenty of views in the recorded versions. All of them
Okay.
mostly. The easiest place to see them is in Rumble. Also, the place where we don't get censored. We haven't talked about if we ever get into health, we will probably get censored in YouTube.
Well,
So that's what we.
we've been into health. We've talked about the germ theory and all that.
And our main place of so that's why our main place is Rumble, and this is also the place where people that are looking for this kind of information are looking for it.
Yeah.
Not really a YouTube kind of subject. So that's where you'll find us. And Aloha I Need Out Living with 1A .com in our website, and we'll be here next week, same time. The myths of banking, the myths that banking doesn't want you to know.
Right. The myths of banks that they do not want you to know. Something like that.
The myths of banks. Okay, that's
The
more.
myths of banks that they do not want you to know.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll be doing that, and with any, if that's all, then just wish waterfalls of blessings for everyone. And anything else?
That's
End
it.
the show. Here we go. So see you next time.